Hi, everybody.
Welcome, Sarah.
Hey, Elsa. Hey, everybody. Great to see you guys.
Hi, Sarah. Good to see you. Thank you
Gigi.
so much. Hi.
Nice to see you, Miss Torres. Hey, great to see so many people. Hi, Celine.
Hello.
Yeah, we probably will have some more joining us. We have people joining actually from all over the world, so we're very excited about that. I know that some had to log off because they're in really different time zones.
Yeah.
So we're ready to begin whenever you're ready. Again, some students might be joining shortly, just to let you know, Sarah. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Well, let's see. Why don't I
Sarah,
share my...
one note.
Yeah.
For participants, I say this every workshop, but again, if you have your cameras on, you get an entry for the lottery. Have it on if you want to, help Sarah feel more part of the community at here, Girls of Tech Hackathon, and also for each other, because we can see each other.
Thank you so much. I would love it for people to have cameras on. And hi to Athena also. I see you there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share my screen now. And let's see. So before I do that, actually, let me just see, I guess it's nice to meet all of you. So I guess you're all people who are participating in the hackathon so far. Is that right? And I just love to hear a couple of you tell me what the projects are that you're working on so far, briefly.
Oh, Sarah, actually, today is like a workshop and team building. Tomorrow is, they don't actually know what the theme is, to be honest. So
yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll just proceed straight into the workshop. And we've added an activity, Elsa, since you first previewed. And let's see, here's my calendar, but let's go back to the beginning. And okay, I'm hoping everybody can see my slides. Yeah. So yay, thank you, Ms. Torres. So today we're going to talk about creating strong pitches and hopefully have a little bit of fun along the way. And so I know you guys have had a couple of other workshops so far. So hopefully this will fit in with everything that you're learning and brainstorming. And so let's just jump right in. So I'm going to start by talking about pitches, and we're going to talk about 5 steps to pitches. And hopefully by the time you finish this workshop, you'll have heard the word pitch so many times that it will be stuck in your brain. Mm-hmm. So I like to talk about the 5 steps, first of all, covering some live pitch basics, and then talk about creating a really memorable pitch. This is so important. And then your pitch deck, another term I never heard until a few years ago, and now I seem to hear it every other day. We'll talk about rehearsing your pitch, and then finally about responding to questions. And this is going to be super important tomorrow for those of you who come and build an app and then present to the judges. Okay, so I'm going to start by switching it up a little bit and talking about my background just for a couple of minutes. And feel free to interrupt me and ask me any questions. And some of you guys may already be familiar with this. So I'm Dr. Sarah Lewis Cortez. And among other things, I work with Alameda County Sheriff's Office, Interpol, FBI, Silicon Valley, RCFL, which is the Regional Criminal Forensic Lab, and others. So what a lot of people know about me is that I work at InfoSec in cybersecurity at Netflix. And at Netflix, I'm a privacy engineer, which is protecting people's data and protecting all of Netflix infrastructure from attacks from all over the world, basically keeping Netflix and everybody who's a member of Netflix safe from the bad guys. And the bad guys are everywhere. And I also work with law enforcement. And these are some of the agencies that I work with. I was formerly a senior vice president in information technology, security, audit, and disaster recovery at Putnam Investments, which, as you may know, is an investment management firm with billions of dollars in assets under management. And I also oversaw their recovery on 9/11 when they were the company that had their data center on the 99th floor that went down on that day. And I was in charge of disaster recovery and recovered them on that day, as a matter of fact, something that some of you may not know about me. And I also was in charge of the global data center and security operations for Bank of New York Mellon, which is a global investment company with 1.6 trillion in assets under management, which was a part of Shearson Lehman American Express. So I worked for a lot of big financial services companies in my career. And I started out in college in the summer working for the US Department of Energy. I was a programmer and legal analyst, although I didn't know much about programming back then, actually. And here's a little bit about my education. I recently finished a PhD in computer science in cybersecurity at Northeastern University. I studied at Boston University Medical School in the Department of Biomedical Forensic Sciences. I also studied at Boston University computer science, and I was at Harvard University where I studied languages, which had nothing to do with computer science. Actually, I secretly did study computer science, but Harvard didn't have any computer science back then. And as part of my PhD and throughout my career, I've published a few things. And here are just a few of the things that I've published that I thought people might be interested in. One is an article entitled 20,000 in League Under the Sea, Anonymous Communication Trust, MLATs, and Undersea Cables. So I've written a lot about undersea cables and communications, which is a fascinating topic, I think. Also domestic surveillance in the Richmond Journal of Law and Technology. So my background is also in law and law related to technology, especially constitutional law. Here's some other of my recent publications. Tor browser technology, darknet investigations, which is the subject of my doctorate and most of my research, and a couple of other things for Homeland Security. Okay, and finally wrapping it up with my online apps and things that I've built over time. Here's just a sample. In the research field, I have mlats.is, which is a research database and application that enables investigators to understand networks of collaborating countries that collaborate on mutual legal assistance treaties for digital evidence. And I also wrote a tool called DNA Mixtures, which was funded by the Department of Justice and the National Institute of Justice. And it was featured in the President's Council of Advisors publication on science and technology, woohoo, the PCAST in 2016. And I've also written some commercial applications, some large, enormous global asset management and trading system, and a global biopharmaceutical clinical trial system for Biogen. Okay, that's some stuff, and I do some other stuff. I'm co-founder of Each One Teach One, which a number of you are participating in, and I also teach digital forensics and intrusion detection at Merritt College in Oakland. Okay, any questions about my background? So pitch decks, what does that have to do with pitch decks? Well, I'll tell you, I've used pitch decks enormously throughout my career. Pitch decks is an incredible skill that actually translates across a lot more things than just building apps. It incorporates some invaluable skills about boiling down ideas to their simplest, most important components, not getting bogged down in detail, finding ways to make your ideas memorable to people who are listening to you, and getting them across visually and in written form, and then being able to speak to them. And these are skills that I use every single day of my life, practically in my job, whether it be at Netflix, talking to engineers and studio executives, whether it be working with nonprofit agencies. No matter what I do, I'm constantly engaged in trying to get my ideas across and using everything at my disposal, including graphics or anything else, to help my audience remember it. And so hopefully you'll find that it's useful as well. By the way, there's a lot of cupcakes in this presentation. Anybody notice that? What's up with all these cupcakes, huh? Any ideas? I'm going to come back and ask you guys about that a little bit later. All right, let's go on to some live pitch basics. So let's see. It's a lot of words on this slide, but thankfully there's a cupcake too. So the goal of live business pitch is to get investors or judges interested enough to want another meeting for more information or to invite you to the next round. So anybody hoping to participate tomorrow? Giving some thumbs up. Anybody that might be writing an app that they're going to get judged? Maybe. Anyone gone before a judge before? In a court of law. That's not the kind of judge tomorrow, though. I think it's going to be super friendly judges. I've heard the judges are just awesome and really nice. But it's like a movie trailer that just highlights the essential ingredients of your business and your app and inspires people to really want to see the full movie, right? Anybody here belong to Netflix or Disney or Amazon? Yay, Ms. Torres, woo! Celine, come on, I know you probably do, right? Maybe Athena, you guys might watch a little Netflix now and then, right? And you flip around to different trailers. Maybe you'll watch it, maybe you won't, right? You don't get a lot of time. You got to just like, yay, Celine, thanks for the thumbs up. You just got to really get to the point and cut through it. What's most important? So for tomorrow, you want to aim your live pitch for 3 minutes and be prepared to follow up with questions and answers with judges. Okay. And then another thing that's super important is trying to create a memorable pitch. Ooh, it's really hard to remember. If you guys flip through all the trailers when you're trying to pick a video to watch, can you even remember all the trailers? It's really hard to remember. Instead, here's a couple of hints for trying to deliver a pitch deck. You want to make a pitch deck that is, ooh, my screen is going in and out. Let me just try escaping out for a minute and going back in. Oh, sorry. Let me try. Let me try closing some of my mini apps on my top. Yeah, just quit out of all this stuff. Okay. And present again. Hopefully that's easier. Right. You want to deliver a pitch that will make judges very interested in your business and your app. And pitch deck expert Nathan Gold, who's somebody that you could click on, has this advice for teams. First and foremost, you'll need to work on standing out. Anybody here done a pitch deck before? I think some of you guys have actually done a pitch deck. Anyone have any other suggestions for what makes a memorable pitch? Not sure. Hopefully we'll find a few things. Okay, so here's some ideas for people. And in a few minutes, we're going to do an activity and we're going to ask our assistant to put everybody in breakout rooms and actually try to start creating a pitch deck. So you might want to try to remember some of these tips and hints. And the ways to stand out from other teams that the judges see is by opening your pitch strategically. So the opening is really important, right? Just like in a trailer, you can kind of like draw the audience in, or they might get lost immediately. This is so much harder than it seems. So some ways are to start with a question. Asking a question always draws people in. You can ask them to imagine a moment that you're sitting on Mars and staring back at Earth. That might help get their attention. You could come up with a statistic that is really surprising, shocking, and unusual. Or you can start with a quote. So there's 4 ideas for you guys to try out in the activity. And here's 2 more. Telling a story, because people really relate to stories a lot. And you can think about if there's a story that illustrates your problem that you're trying to solve with your app. That's a good one. And then finally, something complicated called value proposition, which is just basically explaining the benefit that users will get when they use your app. And this can be a good way to engage people in your pitch. And the way to share it is by saying, we help somebody do something by doing what? So that's a simple statement. And I included a link to some other tips and hints that you guys might use. Okay, this is the heart of it. This is going to be our activity. So those of you who are going to participate in the activity, you might want to pull up Google Slides and kind of get like a Google Slides deck created just to be ready to go. And you could even like drop in some notes to yourself about some of these tips and hints. And maybe even just while we're talking here, jot down a couple of notes. You might have some ideas about an app or a business that you want to solve. It can be anything that you want, something you've been thinking about or something that you've seen, but that solves a problem, or just a fun app that people would have fun with is also a great way to start. So the pitch deck is going to be the heart of it. And this is a brief or enticing visual presentation that is used to overview your business plan for potential investors. Woo, investors that might spend money to fund your business or app. That would be an awesome thing. Or customers. And it's a great tool to use during a pitch. It's actually a great tool to use in life for almost anything you do when you make a presentation to people. You really, no matter what it is, whether you're teaching people something, explaining something, teaching, or trying to get investors, a pitch deck really has a lot of important elements. And it's often created with Google Slides, PowerPoint, or Prezi, or other presentation tools. So today, you can use any of these if you want. I use them all. I recommend Google Slides just because it's quick and easy, but I do a lot of Prezi and have done a lot of PowerPoint in the past. Here's a really valuable suggestion that I found by a venture capitalist, and it's the 10-20-30 rule. Has anybody heard of this before? Celine or Athena, have you guys heard of the 10-20-30 rule? Or Elsa, maybe?
I don't think so. No.
Something new. Okay. Something new you might take away from this presentation. So the 10-20-30 rule is really, it's kind of simple and snappy name. It's that the presentation should have no more than 10 slides. It should last no longer than 20 minutes. And for you tomorrow, if you're going to participate in the judging, that's actually 3 minutes that everybody's going to have. And have no smaller than 30-point font, so people can easily read the slides from the back of the room. And so to accomplish this, instead of trying to fit as much information as you can fit into your pitch, because you only have a certain amount of time, and talking really super fast and putting a whole bunch of information in with a lot of slides like this that have a lot of words that are like super jammed in, instead you can slow it way down and focus only on the essential information. Yeah. So that's the 10-20-30 rule. Now, am I following the 10-20-30 rule today? That's a question. Am I following the rule? What do you guys think? Do I have no more than 10 slides today? Athena, how many slides have I had so far? Any idea?
I'm not exactly sure of the exact number, but I think it's probably a bit more than like around-ish 10.
Seems a little bit more than 10, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even through the presentation. So I'm kind of violating my own rule. Although I'm going to sneak out of it because this isn't actually a pitch, but it's still a really good idea if you can. And I think we've already taken up more than 20 minutes, and I think we're going to have an hour. So I'm going to violate that rule. How about my 30-point font? Any guesses if I have 30-point font? What is 30-point font anyway? Celine, I know you're really talented with graphic design. What is 30-point font?
What? Just like a size of font size, right?
That's
Right.
pretty much it. Would you say it's small, medium, or large?
It's pretty large, I think, but yeah. Maybe you could put it at medium, like a slightly larger than medium, possibly.
Exactly right. That's right. That would be a good place. It's definitely not small. It could be huger, but it's on the kind of the medium to large size. Any guesses if I'm using 30-point font today? I mean, there's no way that people would know this without like a font detector, but I actually am using 30-point font today, pretty much everywhere. So I'm trying to follow my own rules to the best extent I can. So the takeaway from that is that you can't always follow the 10-20-30 rule exactly, unless you have millions of dollars at stake maybe, but you can try to do the best you can. Okay. So here's the heart of the pitch deck. You don't have to memorize this, but it's just something that can be a guide. I'm going to start with a title slide. And then you want to jump right into a problem, kind of describe a problem statement, sort of frame what problem are you trying to solve by creating your app or your business. It's a really good way to frame it to help other people understand it. And then once you've described the problem, you can immediately proceed to describe the solution, which is your brilliant idea. Next, you want to talk about the underlying technology a little bit. What's it built in? What's it made of? My underlying tech that I'm using for this presentation is Google Slides, basically, with a few images, graphic images. That's my underlying technology today. Always interesting and important to explain your technology. Business model, which is kind of a complicated term, but that just basically says, like, how are you going to get customers and how are you going to get them to pay money or otherwise try to get you subscribed to or otherwise buy whatever that means, your app or your business that you're doing. That's what a business model is. A marketing plan, which is a kind of a complicated thing for just saying, like, how are you going to get people's attention and reach the people that might be interested in your problem and your solution. Number 7 is something called competitor analysis, which is also a kind of a complicated term, but that's just basically acknowledging that any brilliant idea that we have, it's probably been thought of a million times before. Because everything builds on each other. And so sort of thinking about, like, who else out there is doing something that's similar to what you're doing, and kind of acknowledging that, yeah, you do realize that there are other people out there doing kind of similar things, and you've researched them and you understand, like, what those competitors are doing, but explaining why what you're doing is special and unique and why it's going to blow away all the other competitors. And then finally, if you have time and room left, some projections and milestones, which is just a way of saying, like, kind of your plan for how you're going to build your app and put your business together, what steps you're going to do. Okay. And a title slide, super important. You might want to include an app logo or picture, your team name and your team member's name, just the really critical information. And now the problem. So I'm giving you a little bit of detailed suggestions for what you might want to include in your problem statement. Use your hook, which is your, like, this is, your special thing that you're going to do that's unique and special and amazing above all others. You want to be sure to describe what the problem is. And sometimes you can use an image to show the problem or something related to your opening hook that can be very effective. Okay, and then on the solution, here's a little bit more detail. You can explain your team's value proposition, which is why what you're doing adds value or is valuable. And you can just use a simple statement like, we help somebody do something by doing what and why it's unique. Talking about your underlying technology, describing the technology you use, and showing images or schematics, which is can be kind of impressive and interesting or incomprehensible. Here's a slide giving you a little bit more hints about your business model. Who are your users and how are you going to get them to pay? And you might get them to pay in different ways, with money or with likes or with subscription or different things, but just to get customers, basically. Who are they? Here's a couple of more hints about your marketing plan that you might want to include in your pitch deck. How are you going to reach out to your customers and get the word out? And your competitor analysis, you can provide a complete view of who your competitors are and how your app is different from theirs. Remember, you never want to include a pitch in which you claim that you have a unique idea, where you might find out that actually there's other similar ideas out there. So you want an opportunity to acknowledge that there are similar ideas, but explain why yours is different. And then finally, your projections and milestones. Your milestones for getting the app published and approved. What are the steps you're going to take? You could just write them down, like 1, 2, 3. maybe your financial projections for how much money it's going to take to build your app, and what are going to be the production milestones and steps you're going to need to take. And then finally, this is your last slide. You can share your accomplishments, where you are now with your app and your needs, and use this as your final slide to get your message across one last time. Remember, how much time are you guys going to have tomorrow? Anyone remember how much time? Will you have an hour each, do you think? 3 minutes? Yeah, I think it's going to be 3 minutes. That's all you're going to have to get your idea across, but it will be enough. Okay. And all right, so that brings us to our activity. Who's our assistant today? Elsa, are you our assistant? Who can put us in breakout rooms?
I can do that.
Thank you. And so we're going to go into breakout rooms. I'd like you guys to brainstorm an idea. I suggest maybe, how many do we have today in the workshop? Is it about 20, 25? Fewer? Well, you can put together 3 or 4 in a breakout room. Brainstorm an idea for a business or app. It doesn't really matter what it is, so don't get hung up on it, because the main thing is just to create a draft of a pitch deck. And then you're going to actually create a draft of a pitch deck. And then we're going to come back together, and I'm going to ask each of you to share your screen and present it. And it doesn't have to be finished. Like, even if you just get it started, that'll be terrific. And then maybe talk about some things that were hard to remember about the pitch deck. So I asked you guys a question. I've asked you guys a number of questions, but I asked a question earlier on. Does anybody remember what my question was? It had to do with the cupcakes. Why do I have the cupcakes? Any ideas? I'm going to call on Celine and Athena again, just because I can. Celine, any ideas why I have cupcakes in this presentation?
Someone was raising their hand, but they look yummy. No, they're interesting to look at. Yeah, there was another, sure.
Those are good ideas. Who is raising their hand?
It was Ona was raising their hand and Tiffany. So let's go with Ona first and then Tiffany.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it would be similar, just that you focus on the presentation with like the frosting on top, and then the actual cake, which is the bulk of like all the research you put into it, but it's not really what's being shown off.
Thank you. That's a great idea. Celine, those are definitely that they're memorable and yummy, and also that they kind of represent the idea of like the content of the presentation, and then there's some frosting on top that makes it like even better. And Tiffany, I think, did you have some ideas?
I was just gonna say like something similar to Celine, like making this presentation very memorable for us by, including special images of cupcakes.
Bingo, exactly. This is not a presentation about cupcakes, but will you remember the cupcakes when you go away from the presentation? Probably. Yeah. So I include them here as an example to, because I think graphics are super important and they're often overlooked. People get bogged down with the content. And so you might want to think about incorporating some graphics into your pitch decks when you come back. They're super impactful. People will remember them long after. And also it makes it so much easier for people to read the slides if they have something to focus on, something pleasant and memorable to look at. So those are all some of the ideas, and also sort of a reminder to keep your pitches and pitch decks simple, super simple. Cupcakes are simple, ideas simple. There's only one theme in this presentation, cupcakes, except there is one slide that has nothing to do with cupcakes. I'm going to ask that later if anybody noticed what that slide was. All right, so now I'll ask you guys to go into your breakout rooms, and I'm going to come around and visit some of them and see how you guys are doing. Great to see you all again quickly. So we want to give you a break in between workshops, because I know you guys, a lot of you have been doing this all day. So we're not going to present. we're just going to let you guys use what we've shared with you about a pitch deck. Maybe you'll be able to use it to copy. And yeah, so really just to wrap up, those are the basics about pitch decks. And when you come and try out the hackathon tomorrow, then creating your pitch deck is going to be a really important part of it. And hopefully it will help you succeed. So are there any questions before we wrap up? If not, I'll be available tomorrow also. All right, that's it. Great to meet some of you guys. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.